Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to explain how not to argue about politics and how to make more effective political arguments. So to begin with, I notice a lot of the time when people argue politics, they'll tend to cite this is in the benefit of us, of society. This is what the government should do to structure a society to make it a better society. Now ultimately this is a terrible way to argue politics, and this is how most people argue for politics, and it shows the emotionalism and the pragmatism of our society. Emotionalism being focused on how things will feel right now, and pragmatism being focused on these short-term goals of just this thing would be good for society right now, and it feels good that this is something that will be good for society, that people are telling me are good for society. So I mean, obviously the government should do that, right? No, this is the wrong way to think about politics. The proper way is to think, okay, is this something that is the role of government? Because when you're discussing politics, you're ultimately talking about government, which is a mechanism for using force. So to use force to structure an ideal society is something that's been tried multiple times throughout history, and every single time using force to create a utopia fails. Communism, fascism, the Dark Ages, the monarchies of the Dark Ages, all of that sort of stuff was an attempt to use the government for the role of forcefully creating an ideal society. That's how people have tended to argue for politics throughout history, and ultimately it sacrifices human judgment for the collective. It sacrifices the individual mind for the collective group, this undefined mass of people that we have to sacrifice our interests for. And this has led to terrible consequences throughout history. But by subverting this question of what is the role of government and jumping straight to, oh, of course, this is in the benefit of society, this ultimately will lead to people arguing off principle and arguing for using force to decide how people will behave or decide what people's judgments will be. And ultimately, if you begin to argue from what is the role of government, you'll quickly realize that, oh, government is an agent of force, that all they can use is force, so they should use this force to keep force out of society, because force is the antithesis of the human mind, which is our means of survival. So if the government uses force enters into society and uses force to structure it, you're ultimately subverting the human mind and subverting judgment, which is extremely damaging to a society. Now, when you argue from society, on the other hand, that is a terrible way of arguing, and you're always going to end up saying, oh, could I insert a little bit of force here? Could I just do a little bit of damage to the human mind here? Could I do this here? And then but look at what will happen to society. All these positive no, you can't violate an individual's mind. That is the fundamental understanding that one must have when you enter into a political discussion. The role of government is to keep force out of society. That's something I explained in another video, but once you understand that this is the role of government, these whole arguments about how can we push and pull levers and push buttons, pull levers just to benefit society in some way, that's ultimately the use of force, and that's extremely damaging to a society. So ultimately, your goal of, oh, let's benefit society, ultimately ruins it. It ultimately leads to death and destruction on massive scales, which is what we see in society, or in governments that try to structure a utopia. Alright, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.